got to tell y'all about this thing called life. You know I got to share it. See, there's this thing called life. I got to tell y'all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 161 of In a Good Way podcast. Today's special guest is Tamyra Alicia. She is an intuitive guide, deep listener, and host of the podcast Soul Drops, a space for deep thinkers and feelers where sensitivity meets self mastery. She blends intuition with real world insight to offer grounded guidance for those navigating life's challenges. Through her spiritual services, including life and spiritual coaching, tarot, and astrology, Tamyra helps people unpack trauma and release limiting beliefs, opening the way for greater clarity, healing, and alignment. Thank you so much, Tamyra, for being here. It's an honor.
You're very welcome. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I never get all like tongue tied, and for some reason I'm getting tongue tied. I'm sure there's a reason for that. We actually met in a spiritual group, and things you were sharing reminded me of myself. So I was like, oh, cool. So I was very excited to have this conversation. So, with most of my guests, I love to start at the beginning. Um, and like you mentioned, well, obviously they don't know because they weren't there, but you had mentioned about, already seeing things and
Yeah.
hearing things since you were young. So if you don't mind, like at what age did you notice, seeing spirits, hearing spirits, or when did you first notice these things?
So I would say the first time that I ever knew that I saw something was when I was 8, like for sure. But I can also remember like being younger than that and always feeling like I was talking to someone.
Mm.
So when I was born, I guess in when I was in utero,
Mm.
I was actually a twin.
Oh.
And my twin passed when we were like born. And so it was like this strange feeling of always having someone there. And I couldn't never explain it to anyone else. I just felt like she was there,
Mm.
even though, you know, people will probably just say, oh, you're just a child. You're just, talking to an invisible friend or something. But I didn't actually, or at least I don't remember seeing anything. I just remember always feeling like someone that was always with me all the time.
Mm.
And I want to say that lasted up until I was about maybe 8 or 9. And then when I was about 8 or 9-ish, I was at my grandmother's house and I was upstairs in her room and I was in her bed because it was like my favorite place because it was huge and I was so small. And I remember this light coming, like she just appeared in the room. And I was like laying on the bed this way, and she started like kind of, I wouldn't say she was walking. It was kind of just like she was moving towards the bed.
Mm.
And when she was moving towards the bed, I was looking at her and she was looking at me. And then I remember her saying, don't be afraid. And but it was like in my head that I
Mm.
heard her say this. She didn't like move her lips or anything like this. And so I said to her, I'm not. And I had never met her in my life. I didn't know who she was. Like I didn't know who she was in a real life sense. But I knew who she was, if that makes any sense at all. Like I knew exactly who she was. And so I remember her like sitting on the bed and she was like kind of turned on an angle because I was laying back with my head on a pillow. And she just started talking to me.
Mm.
And when I tried to recount like the entire conversation, it was like it just started fading out of my head really quick, almost as if like she she was speaking in another language to me, but it wasn't like a language that we know. It wasn't like a language that I could like go on Rosetta Stone and learn. It was just something that I automatically knew somehow. And I remember us laughing, and I remember feeling like the conversation lasted forever, but I knew that it didn't. It only lasted maybe 12 minutes at most. Um, And then when she had left, I remember just like running downstairs to my grandmom, and I was like, Grandma, Grandma, guess what? And she was like, What? I was like, I saw your sister. And then she was like, no, you're like, no, you didn't. And I was like, yes, yes, I did. And her name is Dorothy. And this is what she looks like. And I told her everything about what she had looked like. And at this point, I had never seen a picture of my grandmother's sister, like not
Mm.
ever, because she died. She died when my mom was a child.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had never seen her in my life. And I remember my grandma just like getting her photo book, and she opened up the book and she turned to like, the page, and my grandma had five sisters. So she was like, just pick one out. And she was like, which one did you see? And I pointed to the one that I saw. I was like, I saw her. And then she like kind of got like a little, you could tell that it kind of freaked her out a little bit. But even when I was a kid, I was always telling people things, um, like stuff that I had no way of knowing. And so I don't think it really scared her that much, but it definitely, I could tell from her face, like she was a little uncomfortable.
Mm.
But she just took me back upstairs and put me to bed, and I was fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was like the first time ever
Wow.
I can remember seeing a being.
Yeah. And after that, did it continue, or did you kind of have a period where you stopped seeing things and then it came back later in life, or?
Yeah, I kept seeing things. So actually I saw something the very next night, but it wasn't like a angelic presence.
Mm.
Um, I was again in the bed, and my grandma used to have like a rocking chair that sat like adjacent to the bed. And I remember I was asleep, and I just so happened to like turn and wake up. And when I kind of like looked up, there was this thing that was just sitting in the chair, and it was just rocking in the chair, and it was staring at me.
Mm.
And the thing that I remember most is that it was wearing like this same type of almost like a white gown, just like she was, but the color of it was off. It was like a dingy-ish color, and I remember that the eyeballs were like really weird and like extremely circular and yellow. And it was just sitting there, and it was just smiling at me, and it was
Mm.
just rocking in the chair. And I can remember feeling like I knew that it couldn't hurt me, but also I knew that it wanted to.
Mm.
And I just sat there for a while because I was terrified. And then I eventually just got the nerve to like do like a marathon sprint out of the bed and run downstairs to my grandmother.
Wow.
And that was like the second time that I've seen that. But that was the only time I would say that I've ever seen something like personally for me that was not friendly.
Oh, wow. And that's it. And so your whole life you haven't seen anything like that again?
No, not for myself, no. For years I had a energy, like a repressive energy around me
Mm.
until I figured out how to get rid of it.
Mm.
But I didn't see it. I just felt it all the time. And then I think it was maybe a few months ago, my son actually had something attached to him, and I was able to get rid of it.
Mm.
And he actually got this creepy photo of it. I don't know how he ended up getting a photo of it, but it was like this shadow where a shadow couldn't have been.
Mm.
And it was in a shape that there was nothing around to bounce light off of it to create the shape. So that was, yeah, that was that.
Mm. Interesting. And you never found out what that was, or?
Well, so with that, first of all, I believe my son. So I think that's something parents should definitely do is believe your kids if they say something is like harming them. Because for years, I remember when that energy was attached to me, I would wake up with bruises like on my
Oh, wow.
arms, my legs, like scratches, like everything. Um, and so when my son told me, I believed him. And I have learned just throughout the years, like how to protect myself and also how to like, I don't know if this is the proper terminology, but it's kind of like this field that I can create from I was told in like a spiritual awakening that my heart is like I should always lead with my heart and
Mm,
that my heart is actually a form of protection. And so whenever I imagine this protective field, it always comes from my heart and it kind of like goes out. And in the beginning, it was green. That was the color of it. It was green. And I don't know if it's because that's my favorite color or that's like the color of, I know that that's the color of your heart chakra, but so I could cast this out. But when I first learned how to do it, I could only do it over me.
mm,
So I learned over time how to cast it out wider ranges and
mm,
to the point where I could, if I go into a meditation, I could cast it out over people that are not even in the same household as me, as long as I know where they're at because I'm familiar with their energy
mm,
or what the place looks like. And so one night, when he was like terrified because he was at his dad's house and he was terrified, and I told him, don't worry, that I would take care of it.
mm,
And so I was at home, I went into my room and I got myself into like, I dropped into a deep meditation. And then I like, in my mind, I imagined the entire route as if I was driving it, but I was not in a car. I was just projecting my energy from where I was. So I could see myself going over the highway. I could see myself pulling up into his dad's development. I could see myself going into the house. Like I could see the entire, like not me, but my energy going out.
mm,
And then I can remember being in his room, and I have a very close relationship with my ancestors. So I remember us being in his room and I saw him laying on his bed sleep. And I saw the thing and it was like in front of his closet, just standing there. And when I stood there, it tried to scare me and it got bigger. Like it was like 9 feet tall. It was huge. And I'm pretty tall. So it was growing and it was huge.
mm.
And so then I remember feeling all of my ancestors come behind me and they like grab my hand and we started saying something to it. I cannot tell you what we said. Again, one of these languages that I don't know. And it just dispersed.
Mm,
And then I like kind of did like a sweep of the whole house with my energy and then I left and I was back home.
mm.
And then the next day, my son told me, like, Mom, I don't know what you did, but it worked. I felt it, like, I felt it leave. And he wasn't aware that I did that. So I'm glad that it worked.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you. That was
absolutely.
that was a strange thing.
Yeah, yeah.
A strange thing. I had never did anything like that before, not to that scale.
And since then, have you continued doing something like that, or like you're able to do it now?
Yeah, so I can send out my energy. I can also I'm very sensitive to energy in general. I can remember the meeting that we were in, the one where we met. There was someone in a meeting that talked about they started talking, and before she said anything, I can remember just starting to feel sick,
Mm,
and I felt like I felt like I honestly couldn't breathe.
mm,
And then she started talking, and she was saying how something was attached to her before
mm-hmm,
because of certain circumstances. And when she was talking, I was thinking to myself, it didn't. And she said that she had slept over somewhere and someone was sleeping above her and told her it was gone. And I was thinking to myself, it's definitely not gone because when you're on a Zoom screen and I can't breathe. So I can't imagine how I would be like in person. Like I probably wouldn't even be able to be near you. But when she kept talking and she kept saying that she thought that she thinks now that there is something attached to her. And I remember I private messaged her and I was like, I'm glad you said that. And because I don't like to say anything to people if they don't, but there definitely is.
mm,
And this is what you should do because it is repressive. Like I thought I was gonna pass out I couldn't breathe. It just felt like something was sitting on top of my chest and just like pushing. And even when we got off the Zoom call, I remember just walking around my house and my hands were shaking and I was like, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And after a while, like I went outside and I was okay. Like it started to go down. But I was just like, that's something crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I just got chills because right when we started, I told you like I was feeling all this energy and it was almost giving me anxiety.
Yeah.
I threw it
Yeah.
out, but they literally told me her name and I looked at her and I was like, oh wow. So I knew. So that's why it's crazy that out of all the people, that's who you're talking about. And I literally, they told me her name and then I saw it and I was like, oh wow. So it's the same person. But I blocked
Mhm.
it out. I didn't get none of the feelings you were getting except in the beginning. And then I just said no. Like I want to be present, listen to everybody. So I just kind of,
Yeah.
and then after that, I didn't feel really anything. So that's crazy. Wow. Well, I'm glad they reached out. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I hope that what I told her works for her because that energy was very, very repressive.
wow. That
Very
is,
repressive.
that's amazing. So let me ask you this, not to backtrack too much, but after, for example, when you were little and you told your grandma, was there anyone that became a mentor to you, or was it like, nah, they didn't believe you and you just kind of had to go solo and or speak to your ancestors on the other side, or was there anyone that did mentor you?
No, there wasn't anyone that mentored me. People in my family have different types of spiritual gifts, but they are also very Christian.
Mm,
So they believe that, everything comes from the devil.
mm,
So, I was never like demonized as a child, or no one even said to me like I don't believe you. It was more so like a don't say anything type of situation. And my grandmother, she was like the most Christian person, but she was also the most receptive to me
oh,
about things, which was strange because I wouldn't think that she would be, but she was.
mm-hmm,
And so I was also a very quiet child. So I lived in my head a lot. And
mm,
I think for me that like actually helped in a way because I didn't feel I almost feel like I didn't have to talk to anybody
mm,
because I could just talk to my sister, or I could just create a world in my head and live in there. Um, was that always a good thing? No. Not at all. But it was definitely something that I did because I felt like no one would understand me. And in a lot of ways, like before joining this group, I still feel like a lot of times I'm not understood. Like I don't ever tell anybody like the full capacity of things that I experience because it's weird. Like it's a it's like weird unless you also are a person that's experiencing these things. Like, oh yeah, I hear voices talk to me all the time, like say stuff and I see things. Like, we were just like, oh really? There's a place for people like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but not really, no guides, no
Wow.
anything.
Well, my journey's kind of similar. So just know this is, that's why I started the podcast because there's really nothing I haven't experienced. I don't want to say like, but kind of, right? There's really not a whole lot of things I haven't experienced in the whole spiritual spectrum, right? So
Mhm.
that's why hopefully you feel free to share anything like as crazy as it sounds. I mean, I've probably had something similar in some way, right? As crazy as it may sound. So please don't be shy. No, so that's amazing. What else was I gonna tell you about that right now? So so your family was more religious, but at least they like your grandma, she was receptive to you and everything.
Mhm.
So I mean, if you don't mind, I was gonna ask you about the astrology since you said you're an astrologer. What sign are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm an Aquarius.
Oh,
Aquarius Sun, Leo rising, and a Pisces moon, eighth house.
oh, wow. I don't know. I haven't learned all the house things yet, but I'm a Leo rising as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Leo rising, and I'm a Gemini sun. So
Oh, okay. Okay. So another fellow air sign.
yeah, yeah. So I've lived in my That's why
Yeah.
when you were saying that, I was like, are you a Gemini too? Because I was like, oh wow, you're describing like living in your head and that feeling misunderstood, like definitely. Still to this day, even when I try to speak to people that are spiritual, even sometimes I feel like they're giving me the deer in the headlights look, or it feels dismissive or different things, or they just can't really grasp what I'm saying. So sometimes it's still a lonely walk even
Yeah.
being in spiritual groups, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, what's something that you, for example, that you feel like you can't talk to anyone about if you don't, not to put you on the spot, but I'm curious, like something that,
Um,
yeah.
I would say just like constantly knowing things about people.
Mm,
Because there's no way that I can explain that.
yeah.
Um, and deciding on whether it's okay for me to tell them or not.
Mm,
Like my grandma passed away last year, but I knew when she was going to die for years,
mm,
but I couldn't say anything. Um, so that was like one of those things that I've only told like one person in my family that I knew. Um, and this was like recently. Because I really don't know how to explain these things to people. Or I think like what I told you about with my son, what I did with my son, most people wouldn't understand that.
mm,
Or just connecting with my ancestors to find out answers about anything or experiences, especially experiences that I have in spiritual realms. And like recently, a couple of days ago, I was in the spiritual realm. It's so weird to say. It was
no,
in the
no,
spiritual realm, yeah, like on a field trip.
no. Sounds normal to me. So don't
And
worry.
so I was there and I decided that I wanted to create like a place for us to be. Um, so we're already in a place, right? But I wanted to create like it's basically like a hut, right? This is what I
Mm,
wanted to create. I wanted to
mm,
create like this hut, and this hut is made out of gold light.
mm,
And so in my, you know how everything instantly is, and when you think about it, is there.
mm,
So I was creating it. And then I started streaming light through it. And so then we were all inside. And then the next day I was like, okay, I'm going to come back because they're teaching me something. They're teaching me how to do something because this is my last time here. Like I'm not going to
mm,
reincarnate again. And the next day when I went back, there were these things in there. And they were again trying to pretend that they were something that they weren't.
oh,
I don't know what they were, but they weren't what they were supposed to be pretending they were. And I um, instantly knew it. And I moved them out somehow. And they kind of like went into the ground.
mm,
Um, but I didn't know that there was one left.
oh,
And this one that was left, once my ancestors actually came in, this one that was left was actually trying to impersonate my grandmother.
mm,
But it felt off. Like the energy felt off, because it was like very like I could tell that it was almost pretending like to be a child.
ah,
I don't. It was just something wrong with it, and I just couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew something was off. And so I just kept looking, like turning back and looking. And then I remember like the last time I had turned back around to look, it had yellow eyes. And I knew it was the same one, the
mm,
one from when I was a kid.
wow,
And so we all took hands and then we like kind of trapped it, because you can't destroy it. So we trapped it inside of the light. So it was kind of like in a light prison inside the hut, but it can't move, it can't get out. It's not dead, but it's trapped. And then I remember right after that seeing my grandmother, but not in the hut. I saw her in her version of heaven. So she decided her place was not to be in this elder circle. Her place was not
Mm.
to be an ancestral guide. I don't know if she's going to reincarnate and come back again, or if she is just going to stay in her version of heaven. Um, but that would be really hard to explain that to anyone else. Like I would never bring this up in a casual conversation because where would I even start?
Yeah. But you're good. You're good. I'm following along, so don't worry. You know,
Yeah.
you even reminded me right now of and I know I wrote it down in my little dream journal, but I had an experience not too long ago, and it's funny, like there was like this, whatever, a demon, an entity, something,
Mhm.
and it was weird. I was like in this room, in the spirit world, so in that,
Yeah.
and I don't know, there was this lady that was almost like a nun, which is weird because I'm not, I don't follow like the religions too, right? So
Mhm.
it was weird, and I don't know, I think we tried, it almost looked like inside a room, a closet, something. We trapped it in there, and I started speaking to it in like some ancient language, and I was like, and everyone's looking at me like, what in the world are you even saying? Because there was other people there, but I left it trapped in there, and I told everybody, don't open this door, whatever you do. Oh, and it was speaking. That's why I reminded right now, because it was speaking like a little girl. It was like, "Oh, open the door." It was like all trying to. And
Mhm.
then after I was like, what? And then the voice got deep. Then it was like you could tell it was just
Yeah.
impersonating this little girl to
Child.
try to
Mhm.
get us to, or whoever else was in the room with us, make them feel sorry to open this door for
Mhm.
this entity. And then I was speaking like in this whatever ancient language, and then there was this ancient book there, like ancient book, and I grabbed it, and it was like I was going on a quest somewhere, and I just left the instructions: whatever you do, don't open that door, right? And so when I woke up instantly, like I asked right away while it was fresh in my head, I was like, what language was I speaking? Like what in and they said it was Sumerian. They told me right away, boom, you were speaking in Sumerian. I was like, what in the world? Like I know that's one of the first languages,
Yeah.
but there's been other times the same, like there's languages that I have, they don't even sound earthly, right? Like they're not
Yes.
even from
Yes.
here.
Yes. They make no sense at all.
Yeah,
Like some of them are like, I couldn't make that sound in my actual life.
yeah,
Or just languages like that I don't know,
yeah.
but when I'm there, I can speak them. Like I was speaking Swahili, and I remember I could remember a couple words, and I was like, let me just see if this is actually right. And so I like voice translated it because I daggone sure didn't know how to spell it. And I like voice translated, and they were like actual words, and
Wow.
the words were meant like family and like togetherness and all these things. And I was like, wow, it's so crazy. But also I remember my aunt was like going through a really hard time like a few years ago. And I started having all of these dreams about this book of Enoch. And
Mm.
prior to that, I had never heard about it
Oh,
before.
okay.
Um, and I started dreaming like all of these Bible verses.
Mm.
And I'm like, I know very few. I mean, I've read the Bible when I was a kid because my mom made me go to church until I was 18, but couldn't I couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
But I knew them. Somehow I knew them. I was dreaming them. And I would text my aunt and I would tell her, I would text her like the verses, and I'm like, is this real? Like, is this a thing? And then I was like, and do you know anything about this book? And then she was like, how do you know about that? And I was like, I keep having dreams about it, like in all of
Mm.
these Bible verses. And um, like I just didn't understand why, because I'm not Christian, so it didn't make any sense to me. But like a little while later, her fiance had passed away.
Mm.
And I remember going to her house, and I'm always like really cautious about how I speak about death to people because I don't view death as death.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a very, very different concept of it. Um, even when my grandma recently passed, I was like more so sad because there were things that I wouldn't be able to do in the physical world with her anymore. But I was never sad because she was gone, because I knew that she wasn't.
Mm.
She was just here in a different way. And so I never grieved a loss because I don't feel as though I've lost her. She's just here in a different capacity than what she was in the physical realm. And so, because I know that this is my view, um, I'm very mindful when I'm trying to like comfort people when their view on death is like very final,
Mm.
and they don't think that they'll ever see this person again or hear from this person again, or just, like all of the things that make us feel comfort when someone leaves us.
Yeah.
And so I remember being at her house after the funeral, and I was just like really nervous about saying to her, like, he's actually here right now. Um, and anytime, like, because I felt him standing next to me, and I knew that he wanted me to say, like, anytime you feel like he's there, it's because he is there. And I remember her just like saying thank you and crying. And I was just so surprised that she like didn't tell me to like get away from her or something like that, because I want to be very, very respectful of like how people are feeling and what their experience is like. But also I felt like he was kind of like pushing me like, hey, tell her, like, I need her to know this. um and so she received it, and I was really happy about that.
Mm. And how long has it been since you actually started opening up to people? Like when you would, hear someone or.
um so I've always told people things, but I just don't go around saying, like, when I was little, I think I would just say anything. I would just, hey, this is happening. So next week, yeah, and your husband, and yeah, and this, and there's a lady. Like, I would just literally say anything, but discernment. So as I got older, like, I would ask, is this something that I'm supposed to say? Like, one thing that happened was when during like COVID time, so 2020,
Mm-hmm.
um, I had asked my guides if I have two kids, like if me and my two kids would get COVID, like is this something we need to work? And they told us no.
Mm.
And they said you guys will be fine. But they told me that my son's dad would get it like 3 times, and he got it
Oh,
3 times.
wow.
And we were around him, um, and we never got it.
Mm.
Once we knew he had it, we obviously, didn't come around. But during the time before he figured it out, we were around him. And so one day, him and I were talking, and then he was like, did you know that I was going to get COVID? Like, he just said it out of the blue. And I was just like, yeah. And then he was like, well, why didn't you tell me anything? Because I would tell him all the time about dreams that I would have. And
Yeah.
he was just kind of like, maybe it's just a dream. Like, he's like one of those kind of people.
Yeah.
And so I was like, because didn't think you would believe me. So I didn't really see a point in telling you. He was like, next time you get one of these feelings or have these dreams, just tell me about it, and just let me know. And I was like, okay. But so I think that I tell people that feel open to receiving, but I'm still very cautious about
Mm.
saying things. Um, because all the time, a lot of the time, I feel like there are two conversations happening in my head. Me with spirit, and then me with myself, like
Mm.
about saying if I should say something, or if a person doesn't seem sincere, or like if I know someone is lying and I just can't say that they're lying. So there's like, those conversations
Oh, yeah.
that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay. I have a few questions right there. Well, let me ask you that. Like, have you ever, well, since you mentioned, like, how do you feel? I guess here between me and you and whoever watches this, like knowing, how do you feel when you come across like that? Like you could tell someone and you know, right, intuitively, you know the truth, but when
Mhm.
someone still lies to you, how do you feel when you come across that? Do you feel like it is what it is? It's their journey. Do you try to like how do you feel about that? Or what do you feel the reason is, especially if they already know that you know things,
Mhm.
but then they still like how do you feel about when you come across those situations?
So I would say when I was younger, I would feel um like angry. Because it's just like, come on, man, like like I know that you're lying.
Hmm.
Um, but now, like as I got older and I just became less reactive and I became like I live my life in a very neutral space.
Mm,
Like I view myself as a participant and an observer of my own life.
absolutely.
And so it allows me to hold a lot of space for neutrality where I'm not reactive in a lot of situations. And so now, like if I know that someone is being disingenuous about something, um, I just, hey, I guess this is part of their journey.
Mm,
If it, if I can help them, like if I feel like part of them being disingenuous is because it's connected to um, some sort of trauma where they feel unsafe telling the truth, then that's a difference. Then
mm,
I'll try and talk to them more. But if it's just for reasons of being validated by other people or wanting to feel, or if it's connected to the ego, then
mm.
that's not my job.
Oh, okay.
That's their job to figure that out. And if they want to talk about it once they've gotten to that point, I'm more than willing. But I don't engage in between the relationship with people and their ego.
Absolutely. No, that made perfect
Because
sense.
you're never gonna win. You're
Yeah,
never
you won't. You absolutely won't. I mean, I've tried, so I know, and I know, like that's one of those conversations I have. They've literally told me in my head, "Don't do it," and then I do it, and oh, they've literally told me that don't do it, and then it just comes out. But see, that absolutely blame that on the Gemini in me that can't keep my mouth shut. So that's that's part of my. But it's a lesson that I'm definitely
yeah.
trying to learn. Have you ever said something where, yeah, it just went horribly wrong? At least one experience where you were like, oh my, like, or like that, right? When you told someone, hey, a loved one passed or something, they want me. Has there ever been a time when, oh man, it,
Um, I told a friend of mine that her husband was going to cheat on her when they
mm,
were engaged, and she got still got married, and he cheated on her.
wow, and they blamed you for it or something, or
She actually stopped talking to me.
wow,
She said, like, I wish bad luck on her.
wow,
I I just told you what was going to happen, but as soon as it came out, I knew I shouldn't have said it.
yeah,
I knew I shouldn't have said it.
yeah,
Because that was she was first of all, she wasn't like in the place to hear that.
mhm,
And I think deep down she knew. I think she I think she just wanted to believe so badly that being married will kind of like change everything, right? Like how some people say like, oh, just have a baby and that'll change everything. It'll make everything better. And it's like actually just introducing another human won't change that. But so I think it was that, and she was definitely at a place where I feel as though the self-love was not there,
mm,
and it was seeking self-love and validation from outside of herself, and that's why she chose to move forward with that.
no,
um, but yeah, do I regret telling her? I don't regret it,
Mhm.
but also like I can understand that she felt hurt, and I can understand that I can even understand like her blaming me a little bit. Even though it doesn't make sense, right? I can still understand it because I can understand it from the perspective of this is not actually her blaming me. This is her trauma and her insecurity blaming me. I am just, it could be someone else swapped out from me telling her the exact same thing, and the reaction, it could have been her mom or her sister or her brother, and it would have been the same exact thing. So it's not personally about me.
Mhm.
It's more so me mirroring the thing that she didn't want to see.
Ah,
And so it's like, let me just throw a rock at you to kind of like crack this image and not see the thing that you were trying to show me about myself, really. And so I don't take it personally, and I don't regret telling her, but also I do now understand that maybe I should have just allowed her to learn that lesson. Um, on her own.
yeah. But did you feel nudge at the time? Was something nudging you to tell her? Like, did you feel that nudge?
Um, I just felt like it definitely wasn't like spirit telling me to tell her at all. It
Oh,
was
okay.
more so I knew, and she was my friend, and I was going back and forth in my head, like, should I tell her? I would want somebody to tell me. But then,
Ah,
like, I know me, I'm not her. So someone telling me that would have been a completely different experience from me, telling her that. And then I was just like, I won't be a good friend if I don't tell her. And then I just told her. And I was like, so
mm,
and the crazy thing was is that she knew a lot about like my experiences and like stuff that I'd be knowing. And she would like always make jokes about it, like, yeah, Myra's psychic, like she be knowing stuff. And so it was odd that in that instance I didn't know what I was talking about.
yeah.
But I understood, so it was okay.
No, no, I experience that all the time.
Yeah.
When certain things, it's okay. Every word I say,
Mhm.
is true. But then with other things, all of a sudden, I don't know what I'm.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So it's fine. I get it. I don't blame. Yeah. But let me ask you. You said earlier about so you were shown that this is your last time this reincarnating or incarnating here.
So I wasn't shown it, but I just know it.
Yeah.
So when I was 27, I would say my first spiritual awakening, or like the biggest one that I've had
Mm,
thus far. Like I've had like many ones,
yeah.
throughout since then, but my biggest one was when I was 27, and I was extremely suicidal.
Oh.
And I thought that I was crazy,
Mm,
because I didn't I didn't realize that I was an empath. And so I can remember just constantly not understanding how I was feeling or why I was feeling. Like I remember one time went into work and I was perfectly fine. And I went into my job and I sat down and I could just remember like this feeling of like despair coming over me. And it was like sadness, like I had never experienced in my life.
yeah.
Like it was just, even to this day, I have not experienced anything that intense. And I, the only thing that I could equate it to is like like something happening to like your child or something like
Mm,
that. That's the only thing that I could even get close to possibly imagining that's the feeling. Um, and it was so just overwhelming that I had ran into like the ladies' bathroom, and I was like I couldn't hold it, and I was just like crying, like bawling in the bathroom. And I remember someone like just randomly coming in and they were knocking on the stall and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't know. Yes, I'm okay. I'm okay." And so I like tried to pull myself together, And I went back out there and I was okay for about like 45 minutes. And then it was just like this wave, like this crushing wave just came over me. And I had to leave. Like I had left for the day.
Mm,
And I remember just getting in my car and I just couldn't stop crying. I was crying for like an hour straight.
mm.
And I found out like a couple of days later when I went back into work that my direct supervisor, her mom had died that day.
Wow.
And she was kind of just like out of it. And
Mm,
she just like came into work because she didn't know what else to do with herself. So
wow.
she had came into work. And I'm guessing, and to this day, this is still just a guess. I'm guessing that is what I was feeling
Mm,
because it was insurmountable loss. It was just so heavy and just I it was insane. And just like throughout my life, just various times of not being in control of or not understanding what I was feeling, where it was coming from. Because one minute I was perfectly fine, and the next minute I was extremely happy or extremely sad or just like angry out of nowhere. Or I could walk into a room and tell if people were arguing in the room, even if
mm.
the room was empty. Just like all of these overwhelming feelings that would come out of nowhere, and it's just like being sucker punched. And so I just told I remember laying down in my room on my floor and I started to do a meditation and I said, God, if you want me to stay here, I need you to tell me like why.
Mm,
Like why? Like if you can't give me a reason, I'm out. And then I just like heard this voice, just like I'm hearing your voice. And the voice was like to teach. And I said, like, first of all, teach. The patience, I don't have the patience for a teacher. And then I was said to teach what? And the voice said to teach love. And I was thinking to myself, like, how can I teach love? And then the voice, like, I didn't say it out loud, but it was just a thought. And the voice said to me to just be love, just be
mm,
love and be a light. And it was so, and like at that point, I just like broke down crying because for like literally almost my whole life, I struggled with loving myself.
mm,
So like the concept of self-love was something that I didn't grow up with. I didn't grow up in a home where like people told you that they loved you or that you got hugs or kisses. Like it was nothing like that. It was just it was no one expressed emotions.
wow.
Um and so I was never mothered. I never, even with my own mother, like I never had a motherly experience. So I
Mm,
to this day I don't know what that's like to like have a mother love you like that.
mm,
And so I didn't have any love. And I had a very bad relationship with my father. And then when I was 19, I was sexually assaulted.
mm,
And so it was just like a plethora of things that by the time I got to this point, it kind of all made sense of why I went through everything I went through and experienced everything that I went through. Because how can I teach people how to break out of their own darkness if I didn't experience my own? I can't, I wouldn't be able to do it. And so the kind of like the opposite of a person that is a healer. All healers are people that experience extreme trauma.
mm,
And that's kind of like the duality of it. It's like you have to have this darkness in order to be this light for other people. And so I I just like from that point I started like moving forward with having conversations with God. Because at this point I wasn't aware of my ancestors, I wasn't aware of spirit guides or anything like that. Only thing I knew was that I connected with my sister, but that was it. I didn't know anything
mm,
about anything else. So these other conversations were just conversations that I had with the divine. And I started asking questions about like I always felt like I knew stuff. Like I would know how to do stuff that I had no idea how I knew.
mm,
Like working with like plant medicine, I don't know how I knew what would work together, but somehow I just knew how to make medicine.
Hmm.
Or it was just like little things that I knew that normally require some type of training, but I already knew how to do it and I couldn't explain how. So I started like, I literally just started Googling it after that.
Yeah.
And I found out about like, oh, like there is a thing called like reincarnation and past lives and all the other type of stuff. So I asked God to show me my past lives. And in this vision, like I saw my very, very first life. And
Hmm.
it was all the way in ancient Egypt or Kemet. And I was a physician.
Hmm.
And the theme was that in every life that I was in some type of field where it was like helping people with like either it was a physician or a psychologist or a nurse. One time I was like a nurse in a war. I don't know what year this was.
Hmm.
And then one time I was a midwife. It was always something where I was like helping, being of service, like, with people. And then I remember seeing like this comet. I was in some year, I don't know what it was. It wasn't like any electricity or anything like that. And I remember seeing this comet. And then I tracked it down in real life and found that it was called Halley's Comet.
Hmm.
And when I was born, Halley's Comet was passing through.
Oh wow.
And I asked about it. And then that's when I was told that this would be my last life.
Oh.
Like, no, they didn't say like, oh, this is your last life, but you know how sometimes they just show you things and you can feel it. There are no words needed. And so I just knew. And it wasn't like a fear or like a worry of not coming back because I know that I've been here a very long time. And I just know that it's time for me to exist like full time in the spiritual realm as one of my ancestors. And that's what I believe that's what they're training me for when I go back to them in these like little sessions that we're now having.
Absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. There's were so many chill moments like throughout this whole conversation. And the same that's happened to me, like things that I had no business knowing. I'll see them in the vision and then go straight to Google and yeah, there they are, right?
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's happened so many times and that the same past lives, everything where I'm like, okay. One was crazy in this dream. It was yeah, it was like a hawk was screeching at me like loud, and then I look up and there was all these things in the clouds, and I had that dream for two parts of it. And when I looked it up, I knew like I looked it up and it was this civilization that was like 600 years before the Inca in Peru. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah, yeah. So I was like, what? And it was medicine men and warriors, right? So my past life were a lot of medicine men, a lot of that the same thing, right? Like a lot of those life is repeated. Uh, and I don't know why so many like the Egypt thing too, right? Like so many things. Yeah, just tons of. Oh, well, one thing that started happening to me within these last few years, tons of hieroglyphics. I keep seeing, even while I'm awake, I'll just go all of a sudden and I'm walking through like a temple, seeing all these hieroglyphics, boom, 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 like writing, right? Not hieroglyphic, like writing, not even like the picture. How it was like more ancient than that. So it's all the writings, and I could tell it's like the first writings of when they started bringing them to Earth, right? To this Earth or
Mhm.
something like that, like the first. And I haven't actually ran to get like a paper. I think I should do that at some point. Not that I don't know if I'd be able to tell what I'm writing anyways, but yeah, that's one thing that's been happening now for the last couple years that I keep seeing it in dreams. I keep seeing it while I'm just meditating, right? It'll just I'm walking through
Maybe
the
you should write
temple.
it down
Yeah.
or try and like sketch it. I always try and keep like a notebook beside me when I'm meditating because the way the stuff just after the meditation, it just like goes so fast. I have to hurry up and write it down. Because otherwise sometimes it'll go too fast. Sometimes it'll stick around. But sometimes it'll go too fast. And especially like if I'm channeling for like if the channeling, like if I'm doing a reading for someone, um, and I want to remember something specific, I'll have to write it down, because when I am reading for someone or just channeling, it's like I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Mm.
Um, like I know the words are coming out of my mouth, right? I'm aware of that. But if they were to ask me like 10 minutes later, what, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, it's coming down and then I'm just saying it, but it's not for me. So it's not like sticking to my brain.
Yeah.
It's just like coming in and going out. That's it. And I'm just like the voice piece is just saying it. I don't have any personal feelings about it. I don't have any judgments about it. It just is what it is. Whatever comes out, whatever, like, they need to know. And I can remember being scared of channeling,
Mm.
because probably because of how I grew up, and like believing that, okay, maybe I'm channeling a demon, but I don't think a demon would be giving me advice on, telling me how this person can heal. Like,
Mm.
I don't think that would be happening. And so like now I understand that that's not what it is, am I still like asking for protection before I do anything? Yes. Um, but the channeling, I have to write it down, or after meditations, I have to write it down, because I feel like sometimes the information is just like boom, 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 boom. And like, I can't remember all that.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can't, I can't remember all that. And it comes so fast. And sometimes they try and show you like a million images in a second. It's just like, okay, guys, I'm in a dense human body. Let's keep that in mind. Like I'm not, it's not like when I'm in a spiritual realm and everything is coming super fast and I understand everything
Yeah.
super fast, like languages that I don't know, or places that I've never been. Um, and so like I think I always have to write things down, especially like dreams, not so much. Dreams I can remember
Mm-hmm.
really well. So if they want to show me something, like over, like I'll have these dreams that are, I call them movies,
Mm.
because I'll have a dream, and like let's say it ends when I wake up. It's not like the ending. Like let's say you're watching something on Netflix and you have to like go to the grocery store and you just like leave it off. But then when you come back on Netflix, you can just play and it'll start. That's how my dreams are sometimes. When
Oh.
they want to show me something very particular, or like how something is going to play out, it'll be like a movie. Like it'll just pick up where it left
Mm.
off. Or if I want to see something specific that maybe I miss, I'll just ask, and like they'll hit the rewind button and like and allow me to see it. Um, but dreams are like one of the ways I would say where I have more I don't want to say control, but like it's a lot more sustainable, I guess. I don't know the word. It allows me to hold the information for a longer amount of time, except for when it's like um a dream where I'm in someone else's dream.
Mm.
Then that one is a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been able to confirm that, like with the other person, like, hey, and they're like, hey, you were in my dream, and you were aware that you were in their dream?
Yes.
Oh.
It was a long time ago, like maybe 5 years ago. I was dating this guy, and I I kept dreaming about him, but it wasn't this part wasn't his dream. This was just my dream. I was dreaming
Mm.
about him. So like I have three different types of dreams. Either it's like, the regular dream where you're not aware and you're just dreaming, and
Yeah.
it's the dreams that I'm aware of that I'm dreaming, and that it's a message, whether the message is for me or whether the message is for someone else. And then there's the last one, which I rarely have these types of dreams, where I am in someone else's dream, watching them have their own dream.
Mm.
And typically they're not aware of that I'm there.
Ah.
So when I first started having dreams about him, it was just like the middle one, where I'm just having dreams and just telling me stuff and blah blah blah. And then one day I had a dream about him, and he was at like a carnival, I guess. I don't know.
Mm.
And he was sitting down on a bench, and he was watching like what do you call those things? Merry-go-round?
Yeah.
Like the horse, like the ponies.
Yeah, the
And
merry-go-round.
he was watching himself with his dad.
Wow.
And his dad committed suicide when he was little.
Mm.
Um, I think he was like, well, not little, but like 12, 13. I still consider that to be
Yeah,
little.
yeah, that's real young.
So like 12 or 13. And he had a brother, but his brother wasn't in a dream. He was just watching himself with his dad. So I guess this is something that he did with his dad. And I remember like just coming out of the woods, and I was like walking up behind him, and he was sitting on this bench, and then I was just watching him
Mm.
have this dream. And I was aware that he was dreaming, and but I also was very aware that he did not know I was there. And to me, that felt kind of weird because I felt like I was spying on him, but also like I had no idea how I was doing it. So I also felt like, okay, so this maybe they're showing me this, allowing me to be here for a reason.
Mm.
So I didn't necessarily know how to approach this, like, just in conversation. So I was just like, yo, we started like talking about dreams. And I was like, yeah, have you ever had a dream where you were like in a park, like watching a merry-go-round or something? He was like, yeah. And it's like, that's really weird. I had that dream like a couple nights ago. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah. Um, I kind of saw that dream that you had. And he was like, what do you mean you saw the dream? I was like, so like I have this thing with dreams that I'm able to do or know. And then like I explained it, and I don't think he believed me.
Ah.
Um, I mean, honestly, if I was him, I probably wouldn't have it either, because it was just saying it to him. The more I said it, the crazier I felt.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and we kind of just like never talked about it again.
Wow.
We just kind of never talked about it again. And it was just like, oh, that was weird. And then we kind of like moved on from the conversation. But that was definitely that was the first time that had ever happened. And so it was incredibly like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, yeah. Recently, I can't remember that it ever happened before. Not recently, maybe I don't know if it's been already a couple months or what, but I was in a dream and I was in this place. What freaked me out was like they gave me something to eat, which kind of freaked me out. I was in a dream in a place and I know I spotted someone from my past, right?
Mhm.
Then in that dream, I woke up, and my girlfriend was next to me and I was like, hey, man, I just had this dream. And then I woke up from that dream and I told her, man, I just had this dream that I woke up from the dream I was telling you, and then I woke up from that dream. I was like, what?
I had a dream like that before. I
Yeah,
thought I
but
was woke, but I wasn't.
you thought, oh yeah, you were, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But so after that, I had gone to this healing thing, and I told one of the elders there, I was like, and they were like, well, it sounds like someone was trying to worked really hard to conceal them, almost like they were spying on me.
Mhm.
And so I was like, that makes sense. Cause yeah, I remembered seeing that person. I think I had forgot that. And when I don't know when I mentioned that to them or while I was telling them, oh, there was this person. They're like, okay, well, it sounds like someone was really working hard to. I mean, I was like, wow, how was someone even able to do that, right? Like put you, reminded me of the movie Inception, right?
Have you ever felt trapped in a dream?
Trapped, I'm not I mean, I've had those like where it's like something's holding you, and I've had those experiences, and then I've been able to come out of it, right? But what do you mean
Mhm.
trapped as
So
in?
not like sleep paralysis, but like that dream within a dream thing.
No, I can't say that
No?
I've no.
Yeah,
You've
that's
had.
the only one time, and it was scary.
Wow.
Like I was, and it's scary only when you become aware of it.
Hmm.
Because it's like you wake up and you think you wake up, but then you realize that something is off, like you're still in the dream, but you're like in the second level of the dream, and you can't wake up.
Hmm.
And I remember feeling like I was in there for a long time, and I knew I wasn't, but I remember one of my kids coming into my room and was like, "Mommy, you were like yelling."
Oh, wow.
And I guess like I was trying to get out.
Mm.
But that was, I don't know what that was about. And I remember talking to, because later on in my life, I had met a mentor, and he was telling me how you have to be careful of the people that you allow around you,
Mm.
because sometimes people people are looking for people are looking for other people that are like spiritual lights. And um he told me like, I don't want you to get like mixed up in this community where people are just like, oh, it's all love and light, and
Yeah.
it's all that. He was like, it's not all love and light.
Yeah.
There is a lot of darkness, and you need to be aware of that because you need to protect yourself.
Mm.
And he told me like that there are people that are like what do you call them, monitoring spirits.
Mm.
And basically what they are like almost like empty people, or people that allowed themselves to become empty people,
Mm.
like where they are almost being used by other people to search for people that are on a path of light.
Mm.
And they basically use this person as a way to be able to see through them so that they can either use them to embody other entities inside of them. And around the time that that happened, I had made friends with this guy who was also like a spiritual person.
Mm.
And I don't know, he just felt he kept trying to introduce me to his mom. And
Mm.
his mom was like a part of some spiritual group that I had didn't know anything about. Um, and he was telling me like how his mom, like their family had like this protector, like they had a like this family protector, and this family protector was like in people. And so, but every, I guess every couple of years, maybe once the person started getting too old, they had to find a new person to host this protector.
Wow.
But it could only be certain people, and it could only be women. And so I I don't know, like I just stopped talking to him, like I changed my phone number, like literally everything, because I couldn't explain why I felt like this sense of panic.
Mm.
And yeah, it was just like this feeling of panic that after he started mentioning his mom all the time, I just would get this panic feeling, and I didn't know why. And I went back to my mentor and I was telling him everything, and he was like, you need to get away from that person.
Mm.
Because there are people that do practices where they will use someone as kind of like a vessel
Yeah.
to hold something else.
Yeah.
Um, and that's probably what they want to do with you. And he is just a vessel for his mother, if that's even really his mother,
Mm.
um, to try and attract you to their group, because you have to go into that situation kind of willingly in order for that to happen. So that was just like, that was very scary. And she, he would ask me all the time about like my dreams, because I would just kind of like talk freely, because he was like one of the first people that I had ever met that experienced, or at least he said he experiences like the things that I experienced. And so I felt like, oh, okay, this is cool. This is the first person that, wouldn't think I was crazy for
Yeah.
saying this stuff. But then I realized that he was never really telling me his experiences. I was always telling him mine.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that until later, that he would just ask me questions, but he would never actually give me anything back of the stuff that he experienced. But he
Mm.
just didn't judge me. So I took it as like, a two-way conversation. Um but the conversations about the dreams and then me feeling like I was trapped in my dream, like I couldn't get out of it,
Mm,
was like, that was the deal breaker.
wow.
That was the deal breaker.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's great. You reminded me like maybe like last year sometime. And I've seen this, like the entity that you people call it Satan or Lucifer, maybe four times in my whole life. So this being like the fourth time, maybe, right? And it was like I was at this house and he was like there was a whole group of people and he looked like very well put together, right? Like very charismatic, dressed nice, all this and that. And he was telling everybody, and it was clear in this experience, or whatever in the spirit world, they were like he knew how psychic I was or something. And he was telling everybody, oh, he's joining us. He's joining. I was like, I didn't. And he was like, oh, like I was part of, and then I was like, and then so I was almost like, oh, like me leaving, they were going to try to kill me or something. But you could tell they didn't want to kill me. They did want me to like join, right? So
Mhm.
I just left, right? And then I came to and I was like, whoa, what in the world was that? Like, but then from since then on, it made me weary of like, just wanting to join, even
Yeah, you got to be
yeah,
careful.
yeah, because there's always oh, spiritual group here, spiritual group there. I'm like, and a lot of times like I kind of go solo and this that it freaked me out for some reason. It stuck with me because I was like, what? Like it looked like that. Like it was that, very charismatic person. When I was young, I saw him like that, right? I don't know if it was just because of the movies and this, but I saw him like that as with the horns and everything.
Yeah.
Very, yeah. So I saw that when I was little. That's one of the first dreams I remember from when I was little, right? He was like chasing me. But yeah, and then, like so that to have that like now after all those years. I mean, I know there's been other situations, right? And then there was another one that I was actually like at a spiritual convention. This probably was again like maybe within a year ago or something. I was at a spiritual convention and I could see like everyone was really like demons and I was just trying to get out of there and I'm walking through everybody and I'm like trying to see if there's anyone else that's not, but it's like as I'm walking through this huge spiritual convention, I could see that everyone's like demons, and I'm just trying to get out of there. So yeah, it even makes me weary of that, right? I'm like, man, I better not, because I'm always here. I was like, oh, okay, I need to go to this big old spiritual convention. I think I was even gonna go to psychic fair, and that thing popped in my head, and I'm like, ah. But I ended up going, and it was like really small. It wasn't like nothing crazy. There was just some people there, like, but so it was safe. I kind of got there at the end. It was kind of pretty much over, and I feel like I met who I was supposed to meet, right? So it was good. It was a good experience. But yeah, I've been weary since those kind of dreams. I don't know why. You know what I mean? Why they were happening. Let me ask you. So we don't. I know. I know we already went over the time I had said, but
Yeah.
you being an astrologer and everything, is there anything right now going on? Because for me, I've been noticing certain patterns. So I want to just know anything right now that is very that you feel people need to know about things with astrology right now, or any visions in general that you've had about right now, the times we're living in, anything people should know?
Um, so yeah, so there's a lot that's going on, but I feel like it's funny to say because I just had a kind of like download about this earlier today, but
Mm,
there has been a lot going on since 2020. And if you are a person that I wouldn't even say you have to know astrology to notice all of the things, right? So there has been a shift towards a more conscious, harmonious way of living for a while now.
mhm,
Um, but especially in 2020, that was kind of like the the mallet being hit down, where it's just like, okay, we are definitely moving in this space. Um, and the COVID was kind of just like the human cover story. And when I say human cover story, I'm not talking about like it wasn't real, right? I'm more so talking about like the way that a lot of humans operate, is that they just see everything as just, this is the physical plane and only this stuff happens, and not realizing like we are just spiritual beings having a human experience, but everything is spiritual
Mm.
and everything is energy, right? And so since then, we have been seeing people realizing um, their own unhappiness.
Mm.
I've been seeing people realizing that the way that they're living, they feel unaligned and unsatisfied and unfulfilled, and like they're not living within their purpose. And that has been pretty evident. And we can also see that people are now more interconnected than ever. And it's not just because of the internet. It's it's because of, we energetically feel more connected, right? The energy is just a human way of us being able to understand and connect, but the true internet is the energy, right? Because that's honestly how the internet works, is energy. And so people see right now, if you just look at the world and you just think about it from a very dense human physical way, it looks like the world is literally on fire, right? I mean,
Mm.
politics and wars and famine and genocide, and like literally everything that you can think of that is horrible is happening.
Mm.
But also, we are not, we think that we are losing, right? We think that, oh, the super rich, they're just taking over and they're winning, and we're not going to be able to come up, and we're not going to be able to do anything. But they don't realize that the super rich are actually clinging on for their lives.
Mm.
When you corner a vicious animal into the corner, right? It attacks you.
Yeah.
And this is what is happening. As a mass of people, we are just like, the way of life is not working. It is not like, we all know we're in the age of Aquarius, right? Which is the age of humanitarianism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Aquarius is all about, hey, like if this is not working for everybody, like it just needs to go. We need to figure out a new way of how we're going to do this thing because it's not working.
Mm.
And all around the world, we can see this happening in multiple governments. We can see this happening where, for example, a lot of African countries now are going back to their native language and only using French or whatever colonized language they were given as their working class language, but not as their everyday official language in their
Mm.
country. We can see that they're taking back their resources and telling people like, hey, if you can't pay me like you would pay anybody else, you can get out. And we can also see, people standing up for what is happening in Palestine, people in the news being subjected to torture or trauma or having their careers destroyed because they're willing to take a stand, not just for themselves, but for the good of everybody.
Mm.
So we focus on the downfall a lot, not realizing that the world within itself and the way that it has operated, at some point it was going to have its tower moment. Like if you know anything about tarot cards, the
Absolutely.
tower moment that happens, like it has to happen. And it just so happens that for us that are here in this physical body, it's a crappy experience watching it happen and living in it in real time.
Mm.
But the fact is that it's happening. And it's happening because we're moving towards an age where we will have harmony, not only harmony amongst other human beings, but also harmony with the planet.
Mm.
Um, and with potentially other beings that are coming here. And we we are seeing it right now. And it's very, I sometimes this is why I say I have to live in the experience of a participant and an observer.
Mhm.
Because as a participant, I'm feeling everything like everybody else, right? I'm scrolling, looking at politics. I'm getting mad. I, am criticizing the administration. But also as an observer, I can see over it. And I can see that all of this is happening to show all of the flaws that are happening. It's showing the handful of people that are trying to because they want global domination, but they're not going to be able to get it.
Mm.
And as long as we keep saying as a collective that this is the energy that we are moving in, and we can see it happening in little pockets, but we just have to keep moving with this momentum of realizing that we are all one, we are all connected. This is all about unity. And this is a global lesson. It's just not like, oh, people think like, okay, this is just happening in the United States. No, this is happening across the entire globe. So it's not just us. We are not an isolated incident. And I know that it's not, the happiest thing to say that we're just going to have to go through this, but the fact of it is that we are, and that it is going to change. Maybe it won't change in my lifetime or your lifetime, but it's definitely going to change, and the planet is going to become more harmonious, and people are awakening and becoming more conscious beings and more moving with the frequency and the vibration of like love and acceptance. But it takes time because the planet has been under, the people on this planet have been under a spell almost for so long that we believe that we needed things, and we believe that we needed all of these materials and to chase these things that aren't important. And we realized that now they were actually just a distraction. They were a distraction, and that's how we got here. And people were always just like, well, how did we get here? Because we were distracted. It was a global distraction. And this is how we got to this point, because we were blind. But now we are not. So don't keep acting like it.
I love it. Thank you. No, no, that's a beautiful message. You know, I have the problem of that. I can be an observer like a lot, right? I'm constantly in, but when you try to explain that to people, and like I said, even spiritual people sometimes I think yeah, but like you said, I guess it's been a spell for so long or the conditioning for so long that it's
Mhm.
hard to really, and then but see these kind of conversations are perfect. It's gonna be out there now, I don't have to keep repeating myself and saying like, hey, like none of this is real it's real, but not in the sense of, yeah, it doesn't really matter. All the things that we chase here, all
It doesn't
these so thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. Obviously, you were meant to say that. Is there anything else before I go? Yeah, earlier I was gonna ask you about the tarot, but it's fine. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, yeah. In closing, I guess just let everybody know everything, all the services you provide. Right? You said astrologer, tarot reader, and where they
matter.
can get in contact with you.
So I do a podcast, as we mentioned in the beginning. It's called Soul Drops. And it's streaming on everything. So if you want to listen to that, definitely feel free. My website is www.souldrops.com. You can find out about me. You can also book a reading, whether that's a tarot reading, astrology reading, or life coach session. You can find me on Instagram, um, and TikTok. On Instagram, I am Soul Drops, and then on TikTok, I am Myra Reads with a Z. Um, and yeah, that's it. But I wanted to say one last thing before we
Absolutely.
ended this, because this is, I think you said it 3 times, and I thought, okay, I'm going to say something the next time, and I didn't. But when you say like sometimes other spiritual people look at you like, like you're crazy or they don't understand, I have learned that, and have also been told that there are people who become obsessed with spiritualism, um, as like a thing to do, like like a hobby almost.
Mm. Mm.
And so when you are a person that is, we're all spiritual beings, right? But I don't believe that all of us in the particular life that we are in right now are meant to activate, to express the higher capacities of our spiritual abilities, because maybe that's not your lesson this time, this life. Maybe it will be the next life, or maybe it was the life before, then maybe it's not this one. But spirituality can be a way where people can sometimes become addicted to it, almost like a drug. And it's not because they actually are operating from a space of this is their purpose, but from a space of this is cool, or I like this thing, or this is interesting. And so those people, when you explain these things that you experience or that you go through, they're not going to understand it because this is a hobby or this is a nice thing to do. But they're not like, it's like the difference between someone that plays basketball just like as a pickup game, every once in a while, versus someone that's in the NBA, right? You know what I mean? Like there is a difference. And that's not saying that one is better than the other. It's just saying that one has a lot more weight in the game, so to speak, than the other one. And so like even like going into spiritual spaces, I'm very cognizant of that. And I am very particular about what I share, because I know that there are going to also be a lot of people that just think, oh, this is cool. And when you're a person that like, this is your path and you're walking it, sometimes that shit is very hard and extremely isolating. And it's not all fun. It's not all love and light. There are moments where you just literally feel so alone, like no one can understand what you're going through, or you're being tested and you have to keep your faith and you have to keep walking even when you feel like you can't. It's not fun then. It's not cool. You know what I'm saying? It's not cool when you are going through this and your guides are on mute and they're just like, figure it out, And so like that aspect of it is where it gets really serious, and it's not a hobby or a cool thing to do, or like, ooh, let me join this group. You know what I mean? So I only say that just because like that was the third time that you mentioned it, and the first two times I felt like I should say something, but I just didn't. So that's it.
No, thank you for saying that. Thank you. That even just this conversation, it felt really good to, obviously it always feels good when you could talk freely. I think that's the most, see, I don't like having to, there has to be at some point when you can just talk freely. And I don't have a lot of those moments. I mean, I could do it on my own, right? I'll do it in nature. I do it by myself,
Yeah.
And I could hear like having a whole conversation, but yeah, sometimes I don't know. I guess just that, right? Being in this physical body, we want to feel like someone understands us, because like you said, if not, it's very isolating, and yeah, you could feel lonely, and yeah, you can tell when it's like figure it out. And so, I wish we could keep it going. But I'd love to have have you back again. And I'll put all the links. If you could send me all the links to your, and then that way I'll just copy paste it into the description. And thank you to everybody that listened. And on that note, we'll end it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he'd make it slow. We look up out towards space, or even at the sky. One that gets away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is a maze, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.